Do you want to learn all about how My Chemical Romance created their most successful album, The Black Parade? Well, you're in luck, because they were recording that during the height of my insufferable teenage obsession, so I have a PowerPoint on the fridge for you. Grab some snacks, it's time for Fridge Facts. As always, if you want to take a look at any of the PowerPoints, the links are in my bio. The band started to work on The Black Parade while on tour with Green Day back in 2005, and at first it was affectionately called Cheers Part 2. There's two songs we got to really hear an early sample of. First, I Don't Love You, which we heard on their DVD documentary Life on the Murder Scene. You can hear Gerard singing along acoustically to the early version of it. And then there was Shut Up and Play. This is the early version of Disenchanted. And if you've never listened to it, click the link and just hear it out. They performed it over 50 times in 2005. And for those who got to see it, I'm so jealous. How did they start recording while on tour? Well, they expressed to their manager, Brian, they wanted to get started on another album. And he suggested getting a second bus, ripping out the back, and creating a makeshift studio. This snippet here from the Black Parade booklet explained how Three Cheers had only been out for about 6 months. So that's December 2004 when they decided to start working on the next album. In the back of that tour bus, that early versions of This Is How I Disappear, Heaven Help Us, and Dead were born. Then, from January to March of 2005, they started working on the album at SIR Studios in New York City. There, they started creating songs such as The End, which was just originally called Intro, Dead, I Don't Love You, the Mama Polka Challenge started, and Teenagers. Teenagers, as you know, was inspired by an incident Gerard had on the subway where Gerard said they were just running around yelling, being real violent, breaking, and I was like, wow, am I officially old? Like, am I completely out of touch? Like, I don't remember them being so crazy when I was their age, but you kind of get older, you slow down, and you lose touch with that part of yourself. During the SIR studio, they did a lot of homework where they were just listening to all the different music and albums they wanted to take inspiration from for their next work. March 1st, they decided they needed a change of scenery and moved everything to LA, to the Paramore estate. I've already talked in detail about the Paramore's rich history. There's even a link here if you want to read more. And there's also a video online when it went up for sale not too long ago where you can get a tour of the whole place. Originally belonged to an oil heiress, Daisy, and her husband, who was a silent film star, but one night after coming home from a party, Daisy was driving on Mulholland Road and died tragically in a car accident. And that's why a lot of people say that this place is haunted. In the 1950s, it was a school for girls. In the 1970s, it was a convent. Now, room selection. Bob did this really great interview talking about how they decided they were going to pick who got what room. At the time, they had 4 bedrooms upstairs, 1 downstairs. They basically picked a piece of papers with numbers written on them, and that's how they decided who got what. Bob was the only one on the main floor while everybody was on the second floor. Gerard and Mikey had a room that was conjoined with the bathroom between them. Gerard had said each room kind of fit everybody except for Mikey. Everybody said Mikey's was like a bad vibe, most haunted. This is where they actually recorded the album. So this was originally the ballroom, then it was the chapel, but now it's back to a main ballroom with these gorgeous windows and very high vaulted ceilings. One thing the band did during the recording process was have a heavy room. Now, right off that ballroom, there's this little bar, and I kind of believe this might have been the heavy room for them. In this interview, they talked about how they would spend hours in there just talking, tearing themselves down, finding all the ugly parts about themselves. And that's really where they grew closer together as a brothers rather than a band, and also where they got a lot of inspiration for the music. The hauntings. Now, one thing that's interesting is it was March when they moved into the Paramore, but everybody kept saying how cold it was. They actually needed to move heaters just in order to record in there. Bob did an interview talking about some hauntings. He said one time he walked into Ray's room and Ray was visibly shaken with a toothbrush in his mouth. When asked what was wrong, he was like, I totally just saw a lady in white walk down the hallway. And then Bob had an issue with the bathtub that he never used, but for some reason there would always be like water on the edge of the tub. Rob Cavallo, such a key essential part to this album. I mean, not only did he do the piano, on the album, but he's the guy that came up with the G note. Also funny because, you know, Green Day kind of set My Chem up with Rob Cavallo, where they would be like, My Chem, you got to work with Rob. Rob, you got to work with My Chem. The original title of The Black Parade was going to be The Rise and Fall of My Chemical Romance. And it's eerie how that album almost was their rise and fall. In Tom Bryant's biography of My Chem, Gerard had said, I wanted the record to be painful for people at the same time as they enjoyed and loved it. So I thought it had to be painful for me too. What's crazy is they ended up writing close to 30 songs in, you know, that month and change in which they were at the Paramore estate. Side note, they almost were going to film the recording process, but then decided last minute not to, and they are grateful that they didn't. The original title of Welcome to Black Parade was going to be The Five of Us Are Dying, and that early version can be heard on their 10th anniversary album, Living with Ghosts. In 2016, when Gerard released their cover of Carpenter's Superstar, we learned that Black Parade could have been a 2-disc album, and they were even going to include a cover, which would have been this cover because Gerard recorded this as a vocal warm-up to sing Cancer. So where did they get the title, The Black Parade? So, you know, with the song Sleep, it was about the night terrors Gerard would experience while staying at the Paramore estate. Gerard would just have these crazy, vivid dreams, seeing people they love dying or Joan of Arc burning alive. And Gerard kept like a notebook of some of these nightmares. And one day while looking through it, he saw that he had wrote, We are all just a black parade. And that's when the concept really started to grow and develop. Turning point in their recording process is when they did a surprise South by Southwest charity show. Kind of had a snag in their recording process because, mind you, it was March 17th. They're like halfway into a month of recording. And the only good thing is they did premiere an early version of Dead and the End, which had very interesting lyrics in the original versions. Tried to get back in the groove of recording, and it just didn't work because there was greater issues underlining. And that's what leads us to Mikey's departure. Due to mental health issues, Mikey had to leave. He ended up staying with their lawyer, manager, Stacy Fass, I believe. And they really credit her for, you know, saving Mikey and the band. During this time period, Gerard is very depressed, wandering the house, not showering, contemplating throwing themselves in the pool, never to get out. Frank creates the riff for House of Wolves. And then finally, Famous Last Words. So one night during this period at 4 a.m., Gerard comes downstairs and finds Ray. Ray was playing Bark at the Moon at max volume, and Gerard said Ray was always playing late at night, and it broke my heart. It felt like he was fighting with his guitar. That night, Gerard grabbed Rob's guitar. They started messing around. They created Famous Last Words. Consider that song like a sleeper song, kind of like Helena, where it just crept up on them and it became a masterpiece. Ray talks about in the Black Parade booklet how Randy Rhoads was a major inspiration for the guitar solo in the song. He said, you know, he went out to get coffee, and when he came back, Gerard laid some Journey shit on him, and it was just epic. You know, Frank says, to me, it is the perfect ending to this record. They got Mikey back together, and then they left the Paramore estate early and went to El Dorado Studio. The night before they left the Paramore estate, they recorded the song Sleep. After a meeting with Rob and Craig Aronson, they decided they had enough material to start tracking and just put the finishing touches on the album, and that's why they went to El Dorado Studios to finalize it. Crazy when you look back and at the timeline and think about how fast everything progressed and just how much crazy stuff happened in 1 month at the Paramore estate. And how it almost truly was the rise and fall of My Chemical Romance. But thankfully, they got back together, they persevered, and they gave us a legacy album that will go on forever as one of the best albums out there.